Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I'll be doing a review of The Man Who Shot Liberty, Valance. Before I go any further into the review, though, please be sure to smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. I also upload over at minds.com as well, and make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. That way you know every time a new video and live stream goes live on the channel. So, The Man Who Shot Liberty, Valance is a 1962 film directed by John Ford and written by James Warner Bella. And of course, this is a very well-known American Western film. As many of you know, for me at least, as a reviewer, I have always made it very clear, especially during live streams when people have asked, that I'm actually not really a typical fan of Westerns, at least when it comes to American Westerns. Obviously, many people would probably consider the samurai genre of Japanese cinema to be kind of a Westernized or a Western genre, or very similar stylization, I guess, that you would find in the American Western genre. But for me, I've always just been so much more interested in the history of Japan and in the history of the samurai culture versus American culture and the American cowboy type culture, Western culture, essentially, as a way of looking at it. And I've just, again, never had much interest in it. And every time I've tried to watch a classic Western, I've not been a big fan. I typically like more modern day Westerns. So, for instance, I remember watching 3:10 to Yuma, the remake version of that film. Have yet to see the actual original, and I liked it so much, and I almost didn't even want to go back to the original, because I felt that if for any reason I watched it and didn't like it, that it would just be, I don't know, anathema for me to actually feel that way. But luckily, this movie was recommended to me by Rosie G12, so shout out to Rosie G12 for sending me this film to review, and I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. First off, let me talk about one of my favorite aspects of the movie, which is the acting. Any film typically with Jimmy Stewart in it, I'm going to love. I've been a fan of his for a long time. One of my all-time favorite movies is It's a Wonderful Life, and a big reason as to why that is the case is because I just love the characterizations that Jimmy Stewart does. It's always funny to see how consistent he is with certain characterizations in his movies, and it was really nice to see, especially as he plays the role of a senator in this movie, that he was also able to still continue in that same stylization, I guess you could say, the same characterization that he has, but also to remain and be a unique character as well. This film also stars John Wayne, and actually, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, I think this might actually be the first full-length John Wayne film that I've ever seen in my entire life. As I said, I've never really been into Westerns. My family was never really a big Western family either. So when I was growing up, this is not the genre that we would typically watch. You know, normally we would watch, obviously, Disney animations and Pixar animations, and sometimes we would watch, classic 1950s, 1960s television together, but we typically wouldn't ever really watch Westerns. It just wasn't something that was really known in my household. And as even I went through college and I was going through my undergraduate program and I was focusing on film criticism as my major and as my concentration, even then, Western genre really didn't ever really come up. And so with that, and because of that, I never actually saw any John Wayne movies. And so this is the first time that I've actually seen a full-length film. I've seen plenty of clips of John Wayne. I've seen many impersonations of John Wayne, but I've never actually seen a movie with him in it. And so I'm actually really happy that this is the first film that I've seen with him in it, because he is just fantastic. It's just so funny when he's coming in there and he's like, well, come on now, Pilgrim. And he says Pilgrim like 1,000 times. And it's all of the ways that I've always seen John Wayne presented, but it's actually the guy himself. It's the man himself actually presenting the character. And also, too, he shows that he is able to play this character incredibly well. He plays essentially someone who is, I guess you could say, a gunslinger in this era, in this time period, though, of course, he is not a criminal by any means, but he is pretty handy with a gun. He's pretty much like, I guess you could say, a rancher or something like that in this small area of what's going on. But I think also the reason why I like John Wayne in this film is because he is not the lead in this movie. And I know that sounds kind of odd for me to say, but I think for the first introduction of John Wayne, since he is such a personality, and since especially he is such an icon in the Western genre and Western cinema, I think seeing him first in a supporting role character or as a supporting character, and to see him next to someone like Jimmy Stewart, I think really honestly helps me just appreciate his performance that much more than if it had been a leading performance or something to that effect. Not to say that I'm not going to like any other John Wayne films that I watch in the future, as I do plan on watching other John Wayne films in the future, because obviously I can just see the comment section on this video being like, how can this be the first time you've seen a John Wayne movie? As I said, it just really wasn't a big thing for me in my household, and not a genre that I'm typically drawn to. But it is interesting how you would look to this film, and most people probably by the 1960s, early 1960s, would probably view, John Wayne as being someone that is just automatically going to be a lead in a Western. So to see him not be the one in this film as the lead, but instead of it be Jimmy Stewart, and even the woman who plays Vera Mills, who plays his wife, who plays Jimmy Stewart's wife in the film, even she also has kind of more screen time and also has a bigger role in the film than John Wayne. John Wayne's character kind of comes in and out of the story, and I really like that character a lot because we don't really know a whole lot about him. The mystery of that character as we go throughout the movie is also pretty fun. Now, another aspect of this film that I like, other than the acting, is the solid direction. I think that the director, John Ford, had a very clear vision with this movie, and I think that this vision very much played out very well. I think the adaptation of the screenplay also worked out very well too, and the cinematography was beautiful. I thought that everything just looked fantastic. Everything looked clean and crisp. The transfer that they did for this Blu-ray release that I was sent looked really good. And I will say also that as far as the screenplay goes, even though one could say that I guess the twist that happens towards the end of the movie, now that it's been out for a very long time, I'll go ahead and talk about that a bit. The fact that at the end of the film, you realize that it's not actually Jimmy Stewart who was the person that shot Liberty Valance, but instead it was actually John Wayne, even though I think that was relatively predictable. Like from the very beginning, even before the movie started, I thought, oh, John Wayne is going to have to be the person that's going to do that. Jimmy Stewart is a character that, or an actor that would never be a person that would shoot somebody in that way. Again, that's just kind of like the mentality there. But then also once you actually get to the scene where he gets shot, you realize the whole film has been building up to the fact that Jimmy Stewart cannot shoot a gun to save his life and has no aim whatsoever. And so when the actual sequence happens, where it very much is shot like and looks like Jimmy Stewart is the one that kills the outlaw Liberty Valance, I can see how a lot of people at the time probably would have believed that to be the case, and the twist at the end may have been a little bit more surprising, that actually towards the side, in the shadows, you actually have John Wayne instead being the one to actually shoot him. I think that it was still something that was a little bit predictable, but even knowing that it was going to happen, I think it was pretty well done. But that also brings me to the one issue that I had with this specific movie, because everything else, as far as score and editing, all that stuff works very well. The film's also not too long either. It's a little over 2 hours, but there is one sequence where John Wayne, when the Duke is smoking a cigarette, and he is basically talking to Jimmy Stewart's character, and he's trying to tell him what actually happened on that day, as Jimmy Stewart is being nominated to be essentially a representative for the area and to try and fight for statehood in this region. And so he leaves, and he thinks that he's not good enough because the only reason why anyone is talking about him is because he's known, right? Jimmy Stewart's character is known as the man who shot Liberty Valance, and it's that level of fame that has brought him to this position. And so John Wayne's going like, hey, well, if this is the reason why you don't want to take this role, even though you're perfect for it, let me tell you what actually happened on that day. And as they're fading into that past, the smoke eventually gets faded into this smoke-like transition, and it looked just really cheesy, and it was kind of just something where the whole film had just been so well put together, well cut, and all the transitions had looked really good. And then this one, like going back in time, having this like dreamlike sequence with the smoke, and especially like his smoke turning into the transition, I don't think really worked as well, or at the very least with my modern eyes doesn't look nearly as good. But I think that's a pretty big nitpick overall, looking at the actual film itself and enjoying everything else about it. And I think it does, again, a very, very good job. And also all the other supporting actors in this film really are absolutely fantastic as well. So you have a solid screenplay, solid acting, solid score. Everything about it is solid except for that one odd sequence that just feels a little bit out of place, and that was really the only issue that I had with the film that I can really remember. And so with that all being said, I'm going to give this film an A-. I think it's a very solid Western movie. Very happy now to say that I have actually seen this Western film. And once again, I just do want to shout out the supporting cast on this film, because the supporting cast really, I think, does a fantastic job. In fact, the man who plays Dutton Peabody, who is the head of the newspaper, during this time that we are back learning the actual story, the actual history of the man who shot Liberty Valance, by Edmund O'Brien. For the longest time, some of the ways that he talked and some of the tones of his voice reminded me a lot of the character of the brother of Jimmy Stewart's character in It's a Wonderful Life. And I thought for the life of me, I thought it was the same person, only to look it up and find out it actually wasn't the same person, which I was kind of very much interested in. But yeah, Dutton Peabody, I thought the guy that played him, Edmund O'Brien, was fantastic. And also a very, I would say a very underrated character there also was Pompey. Played by Woody Strode. And obviously this is a character that I think a lot of modern day critics and a lot of modern day audiences would look to and be like, oh, this, would be offended basically. But I look to this role in the 1960s set during Western times and I say, no, to me, I think this is actually a pretty big role for an African-American man, because he essentially is being treated as an equal by a lot of the people that are around him. In fact, towards the very end, someone's about to kick him out of the bar and John Wayne's character is like, no, you're going to serve him a drink. And so there's those moments that exist in the film that I honestly think are just really cool and really important, and I think really do stress just how awesome this movie really is and just how deep the bench goes as far as the acting in this film is concerned. But yeah, A- for this movie, and it is cool to see that in 2007 the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. So knowing that this film will be preserved for all time, especially since John Wayne has been the kind of the victim of cancel culture. It's amazing how now we can go back in time to cancel people from different times and different eras in certain ways. But I look to this movie as a very good example of not just the character that John Wayne can play, but also of incredible storytelling. And yeah, I think the strength of the Western genre is really at play. It really shows in this movie. But anyway, what are your thoughts about this film? What have you seen it? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below, especially that pinned comment, as I'm sure a lot of people will go after me for not only this being, one of the few Westerns that I've actually seen, but also the first of the John Wayne films that I've actually seen, at least to my memory. So let me know in the comments below. Make sure you drop the like button, smash the like button, light up that fire button. It really does help out and mean a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And also a shout out to Harold Francis, who I probably won't be able to add into the June video at this point, but hey, who knows? But obviously you are a new Patreon member, so thank you very much for the support. And as always, everybody, God bless. Now for a huge shout out to all of my June Patreon and Subscribestar members: Andrew Hoyle, Biffer the Hobbit, Brian P., Dion, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Laura the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, and rather Teresa Martin is Miss Martin Muses now, Tina Bojan, Tina B., and Washington Madranda. Thank y'all very much for being my supporters on Patreon. And to my Subscribestar peeps, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stand For, John B., Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / The New Number 2, J. Rod the Beer Guru, Nevanon G. Adams, and ZK Man. Thank you all very much for being my Subscribestar members. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every video and live stream, please consider joining on Patreon or Subscribestar. You also get access at other tiers to things like a bi-monthly podcast, bi-weekly, twice a month podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, which is a lot of fun. There's also a tier in which you can join me once a month for the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where you all get to at that level. Join me for discussions, talk about any projects that you might be working on, or just hang out and have a good time. It's a lot of fun. And also, too, for many of those levels, you also get access to a giveaway section on the Discord server where you get access to giveaways of things like 4K movies, digital codes, and tons of other stuff like that. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, check out the links in the description and sign up over on Patreon and Subscribestar. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.